Hello again, and welcome back. This is week 5. Congratulations. You survived the first group assignment. I'm looking forward to reading them all, and I was very pleased to see that all 10 groups were actually able to submit their paper yesterday night. So nobody's going to be bumped out any points except for a couple of people who haven't submitted their country sections, but they're going to submit them today. I hope that it was fun to work together. Some of you told me that it was indeed fun. We're going to tackle something very interesting in this week 5, and I'm going to try to explain things in a way that is going to make it easier for you to do your next assignment, which is going to be recording a short video, which is definitely also going to be fun. So we start again from chapter 6 of the book, which deals mainly with the many different ways of political participation. So why does political participation change so much in different contexts? Why does political participation look different in different states, in different countries, and so on and so forth? As you know, political participation can take many forms. You can write a check, a donation to a political party. You can go vote in an election. You can participate in a rally for women's rights, for example. There are many forms. The book makes a difference between individual expressions, such as putting a flag out of your house, either a political flag or like a US flag, or a bumper sticker on your car, or just like having a political conversation with a friend of yours. That's an expression of your political participation. You don't need to be a militant of a party. These things might seem small, but they matter a great deal. As it's shown by one of my favorite things, one of my favorite little political stories is the spread and the maintenance over time of a graffiti on walls, which says, if graffiti didn't make a difference, it would be legal. Okay? Think about the fact that in authoritarian regimes, you wouldn't be able to do many of these things. You wouldn't be able to fly a political flag. You wouldn't be able to have a political conversation talking about, for example, the president or your representative. Okay, so we think of these things as normal, but it's only because we enjoy political freedoms in America, and so do many other countries, including mine, Italy. The book also makes a very important point, and traces a interesting history, and says that the beginning of modern political conversations started with the spread of coffee houses in Europe, when coffee was imported through colonialism from South America to Europe. People started meeting in coffee houses and sipping coffee together. Now the main meeting point is not coffee houses anymore, but it's the internet. Most people have political conversations on the internet. As you probably know, if you have a Facebook account. Maybe some of you canceled their Facebook because political conversations can get very intense on Facebook, as we all know. So, in general, voting is seen as the main way of expressing your political views because it's choosing your representatives, as we've seen in a previous chapter. Voting is the outcome of collective action. We shouldn't think of voting under an individual point of view, because for an individual it's irrational to vote, because in a big country such as the US, of course, it's not your vote that's going to decide an election, right? But as it's been shown by scholars, voting is not an individual action at all. It's about whether people believe in the system, whether people believe in the parties, and in general, people vote because it's a duty. They don't look at their costs. They don't really look at the fact that there isn't a very big benefit of casting a single vote. And we've also seen that in the US there's a problem of disenfranchising, especially of people that were formerly in jail, and that there's disenfranchising especially in the South, because polling stations are very far from where people live. And so in that case, costs are high, and but again, it impacts people on a collective scale, not just on an individual scale. I included with this week's readings 2 articles from the magazine The Atlantic, and they're both about elections. One talks about how Americans don't know a lot of things in general about elections and about politics, and how that leads to people not voting. In general, we're going through a period where there's a lot of anti-intellectualism. People tend to hate people like me who are teachers, who are academics, because they say that we are far from real people's problems, and we are in an era where everybody thinks that they don't need to study. The anti-vaccine movement is an example of that, and for some, the election of Donald Trump is also an example of this anti-intellectualism, because Donald Trump can be many things. Maybe he was a successful entrepreneur in his previous life, but he's definitely not an intellectual, as you can hear in his speeches. And I want to hear your opinion about this, but I'll ask a question directly in the discussion. The other very important thing to understand about political participation is what is called the free rider problem. If there's a big political protest that gets some results, does it make a difference if you participate in the political protest or not? No, it doesn't. Because if the big rally is large enough to convince some politicians that they should change things, then it doesn't matter if you were there or not. And if you weren't there, then you're a free rider. You're reaping the advantages of political battles fought by others without having to pay the costs. And it's the same thing that you've probably observed in this week's paper, right? Maybe you feel that someone in your group was free riding on the fact that other people were willing to put in more work, or maybe there's someone in your group that didn't work at all and you're a little angry. And so you have to think about how to fix this. In the case of politics, there's selective incentives. They can get you swag, they can get you free food, they can get you a badge saying, I voted. In this case, think about what kind of incentives, what kind of way you can create collaboration inside your groups. Of course, participating in a political rally is a very informal sort of political participation. There are, of course, other forms that are more formalized, more codified, like being an activist, like being a dissident, like being a community leader. Those are roles that people don't just wear on a random Sunday because there's a rally that interests them, but they normally join some sort of NGO, some sort of organization of people who think like them. NGOs stand for non-governmental organization, and NGOs normally pay some people, but they also can count on an army of volunteers that will help them.